All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you're new. Thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you for waiting patiently for the intro to finish up. We have quite a few different topics that we're going to be going over and discussing today. We have Astrobot. So I've been playing Astrobot. I've been kind of updating you guys a little bit here and there, but not only did I beat Astrobot, but I also got the platinum. So I just want to kind of talk about that, let you guys know my feelings on Astrobot now that I've done everything there is to do in the game. We also have a little bit of sales data to go over when it comes to Astrobot, which I think a lot of people are going to find pretty, I don't want to say surprising, but just to be maybe like good news. I know a lot of people are rooting for Astrobot to do well, and they want to hopefully send a clear message to Sony that we like this game and it's okay to make these type of games sometimes in between your bigger AAA titles. We're going to be talking obviously more about the PS5 Pro, and so the topics that I have lined up for the PS5 Pro are as follows. We're talking briefly about the Digital Foundry analysis video that came out and just kind of going over, again, briefly what they had to say about looking over all of the PS5 Pro enhanced games that we've seen so far. Of course, not having the machine in their hands yet, but just going over video files. But we also have a really interesting topic that I wasn't expecting, where we have Vince Zampella. Most of you, I think, know who Vince Zampella is or have heard of him. He currently works at EA. He actually came in and gave his opinion on the PS5 Pro and the PS5 Pro price point. And I thought that this would be a really interesting thing to go over and cover as well. But we're also going to be talking a little bit about Marathon because we have a new report to go over regarding Marathon, as well as new information and details. We have a report regarding Black Myth Wukong, nothing major, just something small. And we do have a couple of bonus topics as well that, if we do have the time, we'll cover them towards the end of the stream. But guys, before we dive into any of these topics, I do want to, again, just thank you for being here, for those who are watching live. I also want to make sure to give a shout out to everybody who likes to watch the live streams, but maybe has no choice but to watch them later on after the fact. Appreciate the viewership and the support. I want to ask you guys to please take a moment to hit that like button. We're currently sitting at 45 likes. Let's see if we can get that up to 50 likes, maybe push for 75. It definitely helps the streams, lets me know you guys enjoy the content. There are 3 ways, technically 4 ways, you can support the channel, the content, and the community directly. Number 1, consider becoming a channel member. You gain access to exclusive perks. One of those perks is the Members Lounge, as well as exclusive member gameplay. If you're already a channel member, the second way you can help out is by gifting memberships. We shoot for a goal of 25 members. Let's see if we can make that happen today. I know a lot of people very much appreciate those membership gifts. Or you can donate a super chat. That's the third way. Ask a question, give an opinion, make a statement, anything in between. And the fourth bonus way is there's a direct donation link at the top of the chat. You can leave a message just like you would a super chat, but 100% of what you donate goes directly to the content creator. So thank you guys for all of the support. Anybody who fan funds the channel and the community, just know that without that support, this simply wouldn't be possible and wouldn't exist. So thank you guys. We have Bionic Wolf, a member for 12 months. He says, hello, MBG. Well, hello, Bionic Wolf. I hope you're doing well today. We're going to dive into the first topic here, though, which is in regards to Astrobot. Okay? I platinumed Astrobot last night, and, you know, reflecting on the game, I think that the 94 Metacritic score that it has was definitely warranted. I don't know that I would say Astrobot is my personal game of the year. I'm going to have to think about that one for a little while. But what I do know is that Astrobot, it's not really the type of game I play all that often. It's not the type of game that I necessarily even seek out. But I did play Astro's Playroom and I loved it. And I thought, there's a lot of potential here. And I had a lot of fun with Astro's Playroom. I was actually quite shocked that it was a free pack-in game. So when we heard that Team Asobi was making Astrobot and it's going to be like a fully realized 3D platformer, and it's going to be anywhere between 15 and 20 hours, which I have to admit, I almost feel like they even went a little bit further than they needed to. I'm not saying the game overstayed its welcome. I'm just saying that by the time I finished it and platinumed it, I had over 20 hours put into it, and I was kind of surprised by that. You know, I just didn't expect it to take that long for me to complete it. And I wasn't doing like terrible at it. Like I said yesterday, there are some levels that I was struggling with, specifically the challenge levels. And believe me when I tell you, when I was trying to earn this platinum last night, I was stuck on the secret level that you unlock after you complete the game. Once you complete the game, there's like a secret mastery level. It's like the hardest challenge run level. And it almost broke me, man. I have to admit, I don't know if I'm just bad at 3D platformers, but it definitely was a struggle. I was just sitting there for basically like an hour straight, just probably died 100 plus times. But I was determined. I'm like, listen, this is the only thing getting in the way of me platinuming this game. I'm going to get it done. Dude, the master challenge was very, very hard. And it was actually quite comical to me because if you play the regular levels, which there's a lot of them, and they're all so diverse and unique, but none of them present a challenge anywhere near what this final secret challenge level does. And it was pretty cool. I mean, in the moment when I was beginning to get frustrated, it didn't feel cool, but now that it's done, it certainly feels cool. But when thinking about Astrobot in its entirety, I mean, I have to really just give a lot of credit to Team Asobi because they absolutely nailed, I would say, just every aspect of this game, where each world you play in, they all have such a unique atmosphere. The music, I mean, graphically, obviously, but even the feel. And that's what's interesting is like Team Asobi, I would say, is a unique team in that they are one of the only teams that I think really created through the DualSense a different, unique feeling with like each level, using the special abilities that they give you through the DualSense to really just kind of like, when I reflect on certain levels, I kind of remember like using the dog jetpack or using like the frog gloves that you kind of box with, and just how it kind of gives each level its own unique feel. I just really think that Team Asobi, the level of creativity on display here, it's very impressive. And so when people use the term masterpiece to describe Astrobot, I would agree with that. It's a masterpiece game in the sense that it's not meant to be taken too seriously. You have to obviously you have to acknowledge the game for what it is. The game is a 3D platformer. It's not trying to be some kind of hyper realistic or graphically photorealistic game with a heavy narrative and intense gameplay. It's not that. It's just a purely fun, enjoyable experience. And it kind of gets back to, I would say, the basics of what gaming is all about. And that's why I think it was just so nice to kind of have this game, because, I mean, like I said, I don't really gravitate towards these games that often, but because I enjoyed Astro's Playroom, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely hyped for Astrobot. And I played a lot of games this year. I played a lot of great games this year, but Astrobot by far is a major highlight. Easily one of the best games I played of 2024. And, I'm not just saying that. It really was a great experience. And something else I will add to this is my son saw me playing this and he asked to play it a little bit. So he started playing a little bit of Astrobot and getting into it. And then he asked me to boot up Astro's Playroom, and he's been getting into Astro's Playroom and he's been playing it like every day. And he just discovered unlocking trophies, which was unexpected. I was not expecting this, but he was playing Astro's Playroom and he did something that unlocked the trophy and he got all excited and he jumped up and he like clicked the PlayStation button where it takes you to the trophy list and he saw the platinum trophy and he kept yelling out like, I want that blue trophy. Like, look at that blue trophy. And I was trying to explain to him, like, if you unlock all the other trophies, you get that blue trophy. You'll get that platinum. And I was just really laughing because I'm like, oh man, my son's going to be a trophy hunter as well. He's starting really early, but he's really into Astrobot and he was watching me play a little bit and I was showing him some of the he was like sitting here with me when I was using the machine where you pull the lever and you unlock all the different bots or all the different things for the bots. And he was really getting a kick out of that. So it's really cool, man. It's just nice to see Sony kind of deliver something that is off the beaten path for them, I guess you could say, something that they don't normally deliver and something that I just feel like, again, everybody can kind of enjoy on a very base level where it's like, I'm just here to enjoy a fun, lighthearted video game. And that's not even taking into account all of the different, all of the different VIP bots that you can unlock. Once you unlock all the bots and then you unlock all of the, I keep forgetting what it's called, but like the gotcha machine. Once you unlock everything for the bots and you see the way it's set up at like the home base, and how they're all, it's so finely crafted. It pays so much respect to all these characters, to all of these games, to all these different publishers, and to all these teams. And I really just thought it was executed near flawlessly. If I had to sit here and think, what didn't I like about Astrobot? There really isn't much. Like, I honestly can't think of anything. I mean, I think realistically, the only thing I could say is maybe the challenge runs are a little bit off-putting for maybe some people because they go in, maybe they don't go into the game assuming that there's going to be levels that are this difficult. They're optional, of course, but they are there. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that is actually pretty cool. The price, no, I would say it's worth the $60 price point. Again, I spent more time with this game than I had actually expected to spend with it. So I feel like I more than got my money's worth out of it. The lack of Square Enix guests. Oh yeah, true. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know what's up with that. I wonder if they're going to do like DLC or maybe they're saving it for like a sequel or something. We have Rich Rod 908 with a direct donation. Thank you, Rich Rod. Saying MB Gangstas, stand up if you think Halo, Hellblade 2, Starcraft, Shattered Space are good. You are as ugly as Dolt. Swear word, sucka, butterscotch. Fools, you killed Xbox. Rich Rod, I love the timing of your delivery, bro. You never fail to just come in out of left field where it's like, oh, look at that. MBG is giving a review of Astrobot, and he's going in depth. Now would be the perfect time to deliver an absolutely insane rant-filled direct donation targeted towards Xbox and the Xbox player base. It's time to get violent. Thank you for that, Rich Rod. I always appreciate the support, bud. Always appreciate the butterscotch, the butterscotch donations, as we call them here. But yeah, man, Astrobot is such an awesome game, such a fun game. Salvazard06 says, bro, the obscure PS1 game bots were dope as hell. I will say that there were quite a few bots that I picked up that I like didn't quite know, oh, what game is this referencing? What character is this? Like most of them I did know, or at least a lot of them. But there were definitely ones I ran into where I was like, oh, this must be a deep cut. Even I don't know what this is or who this is supposed to be. And one of the things too that I thought was pretty funny about platinuming Astrobot is they, in the trophy list, there's like a handful of trophies that are very obscure. Like they basically describe something you have to do to one or with one of the bots that you collect, but they don't tell you specifically which one. They just kind of give you hints. Like, for example, there's like a trophy that it asks you to take a photo of like two thieves together. And I think the trophy's called like Thick as Thieves. And basically what you're supposed to do is at the home base, you have to get Nathan Drake and Lara Croft and kind of get them to stand next to each other. And then you take a picture of them. And just kind of creative stuff, even stuff like that with the trophies is somewhat creative. I did have to look up some of it to see like, wait, what exactly am I supposed to do here? But it was also kind of fun to try to decipher, you know, with these trophies, what you're supposed to do. And overall, when it comes to rating the difficulty of the platinum, I want to say, believe it or not, I'm going to have to give it a slightly higher score. Like I feel like if we're like rating platinum difficulty out of like 10, you know, if you think of something like Elden Ring and you say that's like maybe like a 7 or an 8 out of 10, right? And you automatically think a game like Astrobot is going to have to be like a 1 or a 2 or a 3 out of 10. I would actually say it's a little bit higher than that. I'd give it like a 5, maybe a 6. And the reason for that is because if you do want to platinum this game, you have to complete all the challenge runs, including the bonus challenge run that I keep referencing. And I'm telling you, man, those are not easy. Like, there are definitely going to be some people who I think will not be able. I mean, I don't want to say they're like so challenging that it's just there are going to be people who can't complete them, but there are definitely going to be people who get stuck on them for maybe like a couple weeks or something. Because I consider myself pretty good at, you know, at relatively challenging video games. I'm not like an expert. I'm not like amazing at games, but I consider myself certainly above average. And some of these levels, man, really, you know, they were getting me to a point where I'm like, dude, I usually don't get this angry unless I'm like stuck on like a Souls boss or something. As funny as that sounds, and it was just quite the surprise. So I would say it's like, I'd give it like a 5 out of 10 because 90% of the game is like a 1 or 2 out of 10 in terms of difficulty when it comes to, you know, going for trophies and platinuming. But those challenge levels are definitely what bump it up quite a bit. I know, right? Steve understands. He's like, that lava level, though. Oh, my God. Yeah, that was the other one that almost broke me. I'm like, this is... Gaming Survivor says, MBG tried to quit trophies once, but they pulled them back in. They always pull me back in, man. There's no point in me saying I'm going to stop trophy hunting. It's just not going to happen. MBG, it's mostly aimed at kids, so probably take them a while. Yeah, there are definitely going to be some, I guess, kids that play this game that I don't know, man. I wonder if I was like my younger self, if I was a kid, would I be able to complete some of these challenge runs? Maybe I'm worse now than I would have been then. Maybe that's the ironic part of it, is because I'm a little bit older now, my skill level is actually diminished. I don't want to make it sound like it's ridiculously hard. It's not like ridiculously hard, but it's just funny to me how it's so, the dichotomy of, you know, every regular world you play through, you're making your way through like it's a breeze. You know, there's really no actual challenge. And some people might not like that, but I think that was done intentionally to where it's like, if you're just trying to play the base game and beat the game from start to finish, anybody can do it. Like, there's really no big challenge here. Maybe you could get stuck or hung up on a boss battle a couple of times, but you'll figure it out really quick. And then just to go from that to, yeah, we just like ramped it up quite a bit. Pretty cool stuff there. And so all in all, essentially my review of Astrobot after platinuming it, I got to be honest, man, it is definitely a 10 out of 10 game, in my opinion. I can't think of any flaws. I can't think of anything that made me think, wow, I'm not like, there's nothing I can think of that makes me think this game shouldn't be a 10 out of 10. It's just everything it sets out to do, it does exceptionally well. It knocks it out of the park. And even for somebody like me, where this isn't normally the type of game that I play, I couldn't help but just have a great time. And I also want to give a shout out specifically to the horror/Halloween themed levels. Those were my favorite. And I love the fact that they specifically hide some bots that are, you know, that are from horror games we're familiar with in these levels. I thought that that was pretty clever, and I enjoyed that. But yeah, the bird detection as well. Yeah, they had that where you pay 200 coins and you can get the bird. When I first streamed myself playing the game, I didn't know what that did. You're saying the only disappointment was the Loco Roco level? You know, I was thinking before I move on here, I was wondering, so this is going to be slight spoiler territory, but I don't really think it should. I don't think it should be that much of a spoiler, but there was that. There was the Ape Escape level. There was the God of War Ragnarok level. There was the Horizon level. And then there was also the Uncharted level. And what was interesting to me about that is there are definitely some other PlayStation characters throughout PlayStation history. I mean, even just something more recent like Ghost of Tsushima, where there was no dedicated Ghost of Tsushima level. And there were definitely other characters and other franchises they could have made levels for. And I almost wonder if they're basically saving some of these for future Astrobot games. I don't know. It just seems like that could kind of be the path that they end up going down. Yeah, like they could have a Jack or Sly level. Yeah, the Uncharted level was pretty awesome. They could do a Last of Us level in the future. There's a lot that they could do. Or maybe that's the whole thing is like they're going to do another game in the future and they're going to do like a whole dedicated Square Enix level or something. I don't know. Just speculating here, of course, but let me see. We also have Rich Rod again. He just can't help himself. Rich Rod cannot stop himself from trying to completely destroy this Astrobot conversation with another direct donation. He says Square Enix deserves no bots in the game. Uh-oh. He says if you want to even consider releasing Final Fantasy 16 or 7 on Xbox, you deserve to shudder. PlayStation only or no one plays Final Fantasy. Damn, Rich Rod is... Do you think Rich Rod is for or against exclusivity? I don't know. It seems a bit extreme to me, Rich. I'll be honest. That's a bit of an extreme stance. I don't know that I can fully endorse that or get behind it. I mean, I've taken the stance that if they need to release these games on Xbox to try to recoup some of their cost or make some money back, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But Rich Rod making it known, bro, if PlayStation can't have Final Fantasy exclusively, no one can have it. Rich Rod's a maniac. But guys, we are going to move on to the next set of topics. I just had to make sure to dedicate some time to talking about my experience with Astrobot. You know, people are always asking me to review games and whatnot and talk more about them. So there you go. Astrobot, 10 out of 10 in my opinion. One of the best gaming experiences I've had. I would say this generation, certainly a major highlight of the year. The only thing that's stopping me, I would say, from calling it my personal game of the year at this point is, I think because for me, Helldivers 2 might, when I think about it, it's like, I think Helldivers 2 might be my game of the year just because of how enthralled I was with that game when it first came out. And it really was like, man, I don't think I've ever played anything quite like this. But yeah, Astrobot, what I will say is that I think it should, and I think it will be in the running for Game of the Year. I don't know that it will win it. If it did, it would definitely deserve it. But it's a great game, man. So shout out to Team Asobi. Can't wait to see what they do next. Definitely glad that Sony gave them the opportunity to make this game. But we are going to move on to the next set of topics, which talks once again about the PlayStation 5 Pro. So, well, actually, hold on. My bad. Let me backtrack that for a moment. I did want to relay this info to you guys about Astrobot before we moved on. I think we did cover it briefly, but just to kind of wrap it up and put a bow on it, for those wondering how Astrobot is selling, we don't have any explicit numbers from Sony yet, and I'm not sure if we're going to get them. But last week, Christopher Dring said Astrobot's UK launch is solid. First week sales are 21% higher than the debut of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart in 2021. Astrobot was number 2 last week behind Space Marine 2, which is the UK's fastest selling Warhammer game. But on top of that, we have Matt Piscatella, who is of Circana, formerly known as NPD. He kind of chimed in to, I guess, try to let people know that Astrobot is off to a solid start, where he says, quote, "Don't usually talk weeklies, but wanted to add some context to the UK reporting from last week. Across both physical and digital, Astrobot ranked second in unit sales in the US for the week ending September 7th, behind only NBA 2K25, and the Astrobot DualSense was the week's best-selling accessory. Solid week 1. So I wanted to be sure to throw this in here because people are, for as impressed as people are about how the game reviewed, people are also a little bit concerned about how it's going to sell, because if the game doesn't sell, it's not that it doesn't matter how well it reviews or how much critical acclaim it gets, but if the game doesn't sell, then it could be problematic. But as of right now, at least in the US and the UK, especially in the US, it seems to be off to a very solid start. Do I think it's going to be a massive seller that just goes 5, 6, 7, 8 million? No, I'm not expecting that. But my read on Astrobot is if it can do like 1.5 million units sold, maybe even 2 million in like the first couple of months, I think Sony would be very pleased with that, considering the type of game it is. Obviously, there's the hope that it goes way beyond that and it just kind of takes off. But it does have, we do have November coming up and the holiday season, and a game like this I think does appeal to a younger audience as well, so that could help. Taicho says MBG Christopher Dring also said Astro is the fastest selling original platform game outside of Mario from the last 10 years, bigger than Sonic, Crash, Yoshi, Kirby. Oh wow, I completely missed that. That's actually really good. So that gives me a lot of hope that maybe this game could go on to sell maybe even better than Sony was expecting. I don't want to get my hopes up until we actually get that data, but I'm just glad to see that it's off to a solid start, because I think Team Asobi deserves all the sales success that they get with this game. But we are going to move on to the next set of topics, which talks about the PS5 Pro once again. We have some follow-up stuff to go over here. The first topic has to do with Digital Foundry's analysis. We did talk about this briefly in yesterday's stream, but I'm going to be honest with you. Yesterday's stream was kind of an incoherent mess. That's mostly my fault. So I want to talk about it in a more coherent way today. This is a report coming from Push Square. They say it's still extremely early for the PS5 Pro, but early expert analysis from Digital Foundry is in, and it's sounding cautiously optimistic. Of course, it is important to note that you can still think Sony's new gen system is too expensive. That's a perfectly valid point of view. You can also believe the improvements aren't worth the asking price. However, we can't ignore the very real enhancements on display as discussed in the video. One thing worth addressing is that some of the details from the previously paywalled video leaked over the weekend, completely removed of context. That led Remedy's communications manager to release a statement about Alan Wake 2. In essence, some pretty low internal resolutions are being attached to these early PS5 Pro builds. But as Digital Foundry itself points out, the quantity of pixels is becoming less important as we begin to focus on the quality of those pixels. So in some games, you're talking about internal resolutions as low as 864p, but the entire point of PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or PSSR, is to bump the overall image quality using AI-powered technology. As expert Richard Ledbetter explains, PS5 Pro receives extra GPU horsepower, enhanced ray tracing capabilities, and machine learning capabilities. The idea is for the big three to work in tandem, delivering superior quality visuals from a more holistic standpoint. internal resolution is only one element of overall image quality, and PSSR is already showing some promise, delivering results that diminish the importance of the base pixel count. Digital Foundry notes that in these early indications, PSSR isn't on par with industry standard DLSS yet, but it's an improvement on AMD's own FSR2. Already, we can see the upscaling quality of PSSR lacks many of the profound issues we've noted when FSR2 is running at very low resolutions. It's the early days, it's not perfect, but there's grounds for optimism. So I thought this was important to go over. Obviously, that's kind of just a general, that's like the gist of what Digital Foundry had to say. It's worth noting that this video that was put out by Digital Foundry is about 2 hours long. So if you want all of the context, I mean every single bit of context, it's recommended to watch the entirety of the video. But generally speaking, there are a couple of things that I think are worth going over here. Number one, a lot of people simply do not understand what is going on with PSSR. There are too many people who are fixated on the price point, which is understandable, but completely ignoring and neglecting the reality of what this console is offering and specifically what the technology is supposed to do and what it's going to do for many games. And this is why you see headlines like Alan Wake 2 running at 864p on PS5 Pro. The reason you see these headlines start to float around and people run with them is, again, a inherent lack of knowledge and a lack of understanding of what we are looking at with PSSR, with PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. But what makes it even worse is a game like Alan Wake 2 is a very demanding game. And this is where I think people need to be more willing to just let these things come out and show what they're going to do. The reason why I say this is because right now there's a lot of backlash and people are looking for any reason to rage against the machine, rage against the PS5 Pro. And again, I understand that. However, it would be wise of people to take a step back and let these things come out before jumping to conclusions, because that's the problem. People are allowing their emotional reaction to get them to jump to conclusions that they're going to end up being wrong about. And the reason why I say this is because what we just saw happen with this Digital Foundry video situation is a prime example of that. Digital Foundry didn't even release this video publicly. It was paywalled for patrons before it came out publicly. So what you see are leaks that come out, basically just giving you a general idea of here's the resolutions they're saying they're running at, but there's no context. And the removal of that context is what allows people to kind of run with these narratives and make something seem a lot worse than it actually is, or actually just straight up sound bad when it's not really bad. It's just to be expected. What these people who are running with these narratives do not tell you is that Alan Wake 2 is one of the most technically demanding games on the market. If you're going to run Alan Wake 2 on PC, it's going to take quite a toll on your PC. You're going to need quite a beefy rig to run Alan Wake 2 at high resolutions, at high frame rates. This is what these people just continue to completely ignore, so that way they can continue to have the fake outrage towards the PS5 Pro. And that's why it's important to understand that if the end result for Alan Wake 2 on the PS5 Pro is, yes, an internal resolution of 864p, but the image quality being greatly enhanced by PSSR, ultimately leading to a much better looking version of Alan Wake 2 running on a PlayStation console than what we had prior, people need to understand then the Pro did exactly what it was supposed to do. And this is where the disingenuous nature of people just starts to kind of proliferate. And it's sad because, you know, Alan Wake 2, I think to a lot of people is a great game. And I played it on the base PS5 and it looked really good. And the developers are probably excited to try to show people like, hey, here's what we can do on the PS5 Pro. But they're not even being given the opportunity to do that before people are just running with headlines that, oh, the game's going to run it, like it can't even run at 4K. And it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, you don't know what you're talking about. Digital Foundry, the experts in this field, are here to tell you that pixel counts are starting to become somewhat irrelevant. We're not fully there yet, but as we see these AI upscalers and this technology improve, the days of pixel counting are going to be pretty much meaningless, because the only thing that's actually going to matter is the image quality. Hey, this game runs at 900p internally. Oh man, it must look like crap. Actually, no, it looks amazing. Gee, how is that possible? It's the AI upscalers. It's the technology. This is what these companies, this is like NVIDIA, AMD, this is what they've been focused on with DLSS and FSR. And now Sony is joining the fray with PSSR. And what's interesting is Digital Foundry saying that PSSR is already a step above FSR2. And it sounds like AMD is struggling to keep up when it comes to innovating in the AI upscaling space. So it almost starts to seem like maybe Sony is going to try to work in tandem with them to improve this stuff. Henry 3K, a member for 17 months, says, how's the family doing, MBG? Well, we're doing well. I appreciate you asking. I hope you're doing well too. Henry, you're saying Astrobot just hits different and is my game of the year. What are your top 3 games so far? My top 3 are Astro, Stellar Blade, and Rebirth. Yeah, that's a good one. I feel like my top 3 right now would be Helldivers 2, Astrobot, and the third game I'd have to really think about. I mean, Stellar Blade was an awesome game. I really enjoyed Rise of the Ronin, though. Like, I don't know. My third game might be Rise of the Ronin. I think for now I'll say it's Rise of the Ronin. But I'll have to get back to you, because I'm pretty sure Silent Hill 2 Remake is going to take the place of one of these games. Silent Hill 2 Remake will probably take the place of my number 3, or even my number 2. I don't know. Maybe it could be number 1, depending on how much I enjoy it. I do love Silent Hill. But I'm glad you're enjoying Astrobot, man. And you're saying it's your game of the year, so there you go, man. Yeah, we're very close to Silent Hill 2 now. A lot of people really like Rise of the Ronin. What's so good about it? It's just a fun game, man. Like, I feel like Team Ninja, they didn't do anything groundbreaking or mind-blowing, but they brought their expertise in combat and melee combat specifically, and they gave you a lot of options, a lot of different upgrade paths, but they kind of took a very traditional approach to the open world, where there's just a lot to do, a lot of checkboxes. And I don't know, when you combine those two things, it just made for a very fun experience. Not the best, but it's just fun. I don't know. It just works. But getting back to the PS5 Pro and just kind of finishing out what I wanted to say here, I don't mean to sound defensive. I'm not trying to sound defensive, but at the same time, it does need to be stated that too many people are chiming in and just giving broad stroke statements that many people are beginning to rally behind. And these statements are just either completely incorrect or completely disingenuous. And the more we see that, the more difficult it's going to be for people to actually clearly understand and see what it is that Sony is trying to offer with something like the PS5 Pro. I don't think that people are fully understanding that even if you don't care for the PS5 Pro, right? If you don't care for this hardware for whatever reason, a lot of people are missing the fact that this new PSSR technology could be an actual game changer in the future for developers, specifically for PlayStation Studios titles. But honestly, it could go well beyond that. You know, I don't know if Sony is going to allow, like, they're clearly going to allow third-party developers to use PSSR. So I imagine because of that, they're going to get a lot of good feedback, and they're going to be able to kind of determine what they need to do to make it easier for developers to leverage it and to improve it. And I just don't think people are kind of fully grasping how big of a difference maker this tech could be in the future. And this is why I am interested in seeing Alan Wake 2, because don't get me wrong, if we see Alan Wake 2 running on the PS5 Pro and it's using PSSR and it's like, wow, there's like no difference whatsoever, it's barely noticeable at all, then yeah, I'll question, I don't know that this is necessarily going to be worth it. But the idea is it should be noticeable. It might not be the biggest leap you see, but you should see a clearer, crisper game that it hopefully runs a little bit better as well. And who knows, maybe they'll be able to add ray tracing. And I say this as somebody who played Alan Wake 2 on my base PS5, and I did think it looked really good. Did it have shortcomings? Of course, but I understood when I played it that this is one of the most graphically demanding games on the market right now. Remedy's engine is very taxing, so I understood that it's going to have limitations on the base PS5. MBG, many people aren't incorrect though. Upscaling with a below 1080p resolution, even with DLSS, looks very blurry on a 4K screen. That's why most people use higher internal resolution before upscaling. And I do understand that, B Flesher. And I'm not saying that there isn't any cause for concern. I should clarify that. I'm not here to tell you that you shouldn't be skeptical. I think you should be. And I think we collectively should be. I just think that we need to just be that. We need to be skeptical, but not, again, jump to conclusions and immediately dump on Remedy and on Alan Wake 2 and on the PS5 Pro without even giving them a chance. I feel like that's where things get a little bit unfair, because you could be right, B Flesher. It could be that it turns out because the internal resolution is so low, the image quality really doesn't look that good. It does look quite blurry. If that's the result, then yeah, it's going to be problematic for the PS5 Pro, because that's not why people are going to want to gravitate towards the PS5 Pro. People are going to want to gravitate towards the PS5 Pro because it's exactly what Mark Cerny talked about. We want to give you cleaner, crisper image quality at higher frame rates. And so it could be an isolated scenario. We do need to consider that as well. We do need to consider the fact that maybe it is just the fact that the PS5 Pro is going to do a lot of heavy lifting for a lot of games and a lot of game engines. But as it turns out, Alan Wake 2 and their, the Northlight engine, this isn't going to be one of them. It could be that. But if that was the case, I would have to question, why even show that game in your presentation? You know what I mean? So we'll have to see. I think it really comes down to seeing these games being presented officially, like in a more formal way, going more in depth and getting a deeper analysis to understand. Because I will say, when I watched this Digital Foundry video, even they were saying like they saw like 6 seconds of footage. And I mean, it is what it is. You know, it's there. If it's there, analyze it, but it's not a whole lot to go off of. So I think that there are just multiple reasons why we should be skeptical, but not jump to conclusions. But the most painful thing to see is people simply not, and I'm not talking about anybody here necessarily, but seeing people that just do not understand why why we call it an internal resolution and why it's so low. You know, I think a lot of people are just completely, and to be fair, you know what? Let me acknowledge this too. This could partially be Sony's fault. You know, we can't ignore the fact that for multiple generations now, it has been the resolution wars, right? Especially during the PS4 and Xbox One generation, 900p versus 1080p. And then when the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X came out, who's running closer to native 4K resolution? And there's no denying that people, to an extent in this space, have been conditioned to hyper focus and fixate on resolution and pixel count. So I don't want to neglect that fact, right? I don't want to ignore that. That is true. But I just hope that more people begin to realize that we're reaching a kind of ceiling to a certain extent. And that ceiling is, what it basically looks like is, as games continue to improve and get bigger and they start to offer more and they're doing more things, higher pixel counts are becoming more and more difficult to actually strive for. And with that in mind, it just makes sense that this technology, once it's out here, developers are going to opt to use that so they can save that headroom. You know, they can save that headroom and they can use that towards other things that they deem more important. That's where we are at this point in time. And we have GC84, a member for 15 months. He says Sony could shut up all the haters by simply showing off Naughty Dog's new IP or Ghost 2 running on a Pro at the upcoming State of Play. That's all they got to do. It's an interesting thought. They could do that, yes. And I do agree that I don't think it would shut everybody up, certainly not, but it would silence a lot of people. And it would go a very long way. But another reason I'm hesitant to think they're going to do that is because when we talk about the idea of a next generation PlayStation 6 being potentially just as expensive as the PS5 Pro, or maybe even more expensive, the PS5 Pro is a console that Sony doesn't need to sell. There's not as much pressure. It's an optional console. If you want it, go get it. If not, no big deal. We have a base PS5 waiting here for you, right? The next generation PlayStation, Sony might be saving some of these games because that's when they feel like they're going to need them. How difficult is it going to be to sell people on a PlayStation 6? I don't know. Sony knows. I don't. But if I sit here and I assume it might be more difficult than we think, the PS5, from Sony's perspective, they were nervous that was going to be a hard sell. So if they thought the PS5 was going to be a relatively hard sell, they're probably sitting here thinking, man, we have a uphill battle when it comes to trying to sell people on the PlayStation 6 now. So they might take what you're saying here and rather than apply it to the PS5 Pro, save it and apply it to the PlayStation 6. Now, I will say, I think Ghost of Tsushima 2, we will see this generation. We are going to see this on the PS5. But something like Naughty Dog's new IP, I think that's up in the air. I could see that being a PlayStation 6 game. But fundamentally speaking, I understand what you're getting at. I think I called you JC, but it's GC. I understand what you're getting at, and it's what I've talked about as well. Like, it's great to talk about the new hardware. It's great to talk about the technology. It's great to talk about what this hardware can potentially do for games. It's all very exciting. But we need to see the games. You know, we have to see what these games are actually going to look like running on this hardware. And I'm not talking about like just a couple seconds here and there. I'm talking like, you know, full trailers, full demos, and full breakdowns. And I'm hoping, like I said, assuming the State of Play is real and happening in the next week, I hope Sony delivers, man. I really do not want to see any more negativity than there has to be, because the negativity is damn near overwhelming at this point. I think anybody who is enjoying PlayStation right now could agree that if you're paying any attention to the online conversation, most of it's overwhelmingly negative. And it's, you know, we have an overwhelmingly negative conversation that dominates with Concord, which is totally understandable. And then we have a very positive conversation very briefly with Astrobot, but then the PS5 Pro reveal comes in, and then it's just another overwhelmingly negative conversation. It just gets tiresome. It gets exhaustive. And so the last thing I want to see is even more negative conversation after the State of Play. It could end up that way, but I guess I'm just saying I am hopeful that Sony delivers at the State of Play some exciting announcements, just some stuff that people are going to be happy about. That's the only thing I really want to see happen. Let me see. So I do have something else to say here about the PS5 Pro. This is new information, though, or a new opinion. I have a write-up here from WCCF Tech. Well, actually, I keep getting ahead of myself. I have one more write-up here from WCCF Tech that still talks about Digital Foundry. They say here the PlayStation 5 Pro Game Boost mode could make the system the only console capable of running From Software's Elden Ring at a locked 60 frames per second, according to a new analysis. During the latest episode of their weekly podcast, the tech experts at Digital Foundry attempted to get a first look at how the console's Game Boost could provide improvements to games that won't get PlayStation 5 Pro patches. The test was conducted using an RX 6800 GPU, and it is around 45% more powerful than the base PS5, just like the Pro, and features 60 compute units and possibly similar clock speeds. The test was focused on Elden Ring and was conducted using the same resolution as the game's quality mode on the base console with similar settings. Unfortunately, it was not possible to recreate the same identical settings on PC due to a lack of a dynamic resolution scaling option and settings quality adjustment on the fly that are available on console, and some console settings not having an equivalent in the PC version, being a mix between medium and high. Even so, the test made it clear how the PlayStation 5 Pro Game Boost mode may not entirely deliver a locked 60 FPS experience in quality mode, as in some instances, the game running on the RX 6800 GPU dropped to the 50 FPS range. However, in performance mode with dynamic resolution scaling and settings quality adjustments on the fly, the console may very well run Elden Ring at 60 FPS with Game Boost if the feature really delivers the full power of the system's GPU. The From Software game is obviously not going to be the only game that will see an improvement even without a dedicated PS5 Pro patch, as games using AMD FSR2 and dynamic resolution scaling should see a significant image quality boost, as well as the higher base pixel count, the better visuals AMD's upscaler delivers. So this is just something else that I wanted to mention that Digital Foundry talked about somewhat extensively, is they focused on the idea of the PS5 Pro and what it's offering, just simply boosting games out of the box, not being specifically optimized or enhanced for the PS5 Pro, but games that have a dynamic resolution or have a frame rate that fluctuates and can't necessarily maintain a locked 60. Digital Foundry isn't confirming anything, but they're saying that there's a real chance here that for a lot of these games, and let's face it, during the PS5 generation so far, there have been quite a few games that have a dynamic resolution that sometimes seems to drop lower than you would like it to, or the frame rate just in performance mode cannot seem to just stay at a locked 60. There's a decent chance the PS5 Pro out of the box, not guaranteed, but a chance, it will be able to boost some of these games and just ultimately kind of brute force some of these resolutions and some of these frame rates. And Elden Ring is a good example for them to use, because I think Elden Ring was a game that, you know, if you played in its performance mode, it's not perfect. It definitely has some problems and some frame drops. And you think about like Final Fantasy 16 or 7 Rebirth, and you just wonder. Well, I mean, Rebirth is apparently being PS5 Pro enhanced, but no word on Final Fantasy 16. I do wonder just what the PS5 Pro, what its raw power increase could do. We have Raven X0, a member for 1 month, says, I can't wait for the PS5 Pro, especially since I still have a huge backlog of games to play, so I'll be utilizing it fully. PSSR 2.0 for PlayStation 6? ? Yes, I think so. I think that this is the first iteration of PSSR. So because of that, I do expect it to be somewhat limited and not necessarily top of the line, right? Like, I don't think it's going to match the latest DLSS, but yeah, I think that Sony and Mark Cerny, they're engineers. They're probably going to work hard to try to improve PSSR, and PSSR could be, I mean, it could be the most important thing for next generation, believe it or not. In order for Sony to not have a $1,000 PS6, something like PSSR could just be that vitally important. So I imagine we will get a PSSR 2.0 around that time. Yeah, it is the early days. There's still a lot left to learn about all of this. But I want to go over one other topic here regarding the PS5 Pro, and this one's very different. This one kind of came out of left field, and I'm curious to see how people react to this because, again, it's a well-known AAA developer, Vince Zampella, giving his thoughts on the PS5 Pro. Being reported by WCCF Tech yesterday, Vince Zampella, head of Respawn and manager of the Battlefield franchise, took the opportunity to discuss the recent announcement of the PS5 Pro in his interview with IGN about the next Battlefield game. And if we have time, we'll go over the new information about the new Battlefield game. In terms of development, Zampella seems relatively indifferent to it in the sense that it'll be another platform that can run games faster and probably allow for some shiny new visual effects. So his first quote here when he was asked how Battlefield will leverage the PS5 Pro, quote, "I mean, we're not out yet, so does it really help us? Not right now. Can we do cooler things on it? Sure. I guess we'll see. As we see how the adoption is, we'll see how much it really affects us. We have to make a game that runs on everything, so it'll just be like, what can we plus up on something like that, pun intended." The article continues saying Zampella's thoughts on the pricing of the PS5 Pro are much more interesting. The executive said that the PS5 Pro pricing, while shocking at first, ultimately makes sense. Quote, "I think it's expected, and anything that gets us better performance for the people that really love it, to me, it's an amazing thing. I was watching something on it where the price, where they look at it as the most expensive, and it really isn't. If you go back, some of the older consoles were just as expensive and probably adjusted for inflation were probably more so. So at first it seemed a little shocking, but it's kind of like, it's actually not that bad. And if you get a $700 PC, you're not getting the same performance that you're getting out of it. So, I mean, it's a balance. Is it expensive for people? Absolutely. Not everybody will be able to afford it. Would it be better if it was cheaper? Sure. I want more people to have it, but it makes sense, really. So I just thought that this was very interesting to go over because, again, this is I would say Vince Zampella is one of the most well-respected developers, AAA developers in the industry, one of the most well-known. And his opinion on the matter is, I mean, he flat out says, like, $700 PS5 Pro, it's not that bad considering what it's offering. And I'm sure he's probably going to trigger a certain amount of PC fans by saying that for $700, you're not going to get a PC that performs the same, because every time that is mentioned, I mean, there are certain people who go on the defensive, like aggressively on the defensive, but, you know, it's to be expected. So Vince Zampella out here just flat out saying, like, look, man, it's not that bad. And I think it's funny because I feel like it's just so interesting to see the insane backlash that the PS5 Pro is getting, and specifically because of the pricing and how people are really going in hard on Sony's greedy and they're just screwing over their customers. And then when you listen to the opinion of a very well-versed individual within the gaming industry, you know, Vince Zampella is not just some random Redditor or just some random person replying or tweeting on Twitter. Like, it's Vince Zampella, and he flat out just says, like, yeah, for what you're getting, it's really not that bad. It makes me laugh because it's like, well, damn, you know, like, that seems to be the opposite of what the angry internet is saying. And it just, again, it just makes me think to myself, who would I be better off listening to here? The angry mob on the internet or somebody like Vince Zampella? That's a millionaire take. That is true. It is worth noting he's probably a very rich individual with a lot of money. So we do need to keep that in mind. It could skew things, certainly. But no, I just thought it was, truthfully, I'm more interested to hear about what the next Battlefield game could do with the PS5 Pro, because, I mean, he didn't go too much into it. Obviously, we don't know much about it, but Gavin House, you're saying Moore's Law just said we're looking around 7800 XT performance for a 500-pound GPU. Capono says MBG just likes seeing someone being reasonable. It is true. Waylark, you're saying MBG, why do you feel like you have to defend the Pro? LOL, who cares what others think? Yeah, I will say I've been too much on the defensive. Well, I'm not trying to defend the Pro today. I just, again, to me, this was almost a kind of comical thing to come across, because what I am very much interested in is hearing what people in, I would say, respectable positions and people who know what they're talking about, I'm interested in hearing what they have to say. And generally speaking, again, I think the defensiveness comes through as defensive, but what it really is it's just people who know what they're talking about. What they are saying goes against what the general, not the general public, but what a lot of the internet has to say collectively. And that's the only thing that frustrates me, where it's like, guys, I understand all the emotional reactions. Believe me, I understand it. But at some point, we have to kind of just calm down and pay attention to what the people who know what they're talking about have to say about it. I'm not saying you have to, completely change your mind and decide you love the PS5 Pro. No, but we do have to be fair in our analysis. And I just hope that as time goes on, as we see more people like Vince Zampella, come out and kind of chime in and give their thoughts, I just hope it helps relax the situation a little bit and makes people kind of realize that, maybe it's not as bad as we're making it sound. Because I feel like that's just it's been kind of suffocating the conversation around the PS5 Pro. And the more we see just reasonable, rational people who, especially those who know what they're talking about, they have the experience, they're in those positions, I think the more productive the conversation becomes. Yeah, so Chase Andrew says $700 isn't cheap. Personally, I'm going to pass on the Pro. And that's the thing too, is like, I feel like a rational response is exactly what you just said, Chase. It's just too expensive. And I agree, it is expensive. It's not cheap for me either, But there you go. I figured I would just kind of let you guys know, in the midst of all this conversation about the PS5 Pro, everybody chiming in, this is what Vince Zampella had to say about it. Let me get this out of here. But we are going to move on. This is probably going to be a shorter stream today. I guess it depends. I do have some bonus topics, so we could see where that takes us. But I notice I am moving through the topics pretty quickly here. So we're going to move on to the next topic, which is a new report regarding Marathon. But before I do that, I want to just ask you guys to please hit that like button to help the stream out. We're sitting at 140 likes, which is great to see. Let's see if we can bump that up to 150, maybe push for 175. It definitely helps. Racket Raccoon, you're saying there's not a lot to talk about, to be honest. I think, yeah, we pretty much, this is usually the way it goes. When big things happen, there's usually an entire week, sometimes 2 weeks of just, there's so much to be said. There's something happening every day, but then there's that kind of, the wave rises, we ride the wave comes crashing down, and then once the wave comes crashing down, then there's just stillness, It happens like this every single time. So I think this week, I don't know if it'll be the entire week, but it feels like we've kind of reached that kind of still point where it's like, all right, we're back to the calmness for a little bit, which is always good because it serves as a nice breather, catch our breath. But yeah, I do want to move on and talk a little bit about Marathon. We have a report here from PlayStation Lifestyle. It says PlayStation has recently made a push to bring unique live service experiences to PS5. And they say that However, if the great Concord situation of 2024, fans might be questioning if Sony Interactive Entertainment plans to continue this push and pricing these games at $40. It seems SIE's Bungie will follow suit with Marathon when it inevitably launches. Bungie's PvP extraction shooter Marathon will reportedly cost $40 according to the Game Post. Several sources have told the publication the developer is targeting the pay-to-play premium model rather than going free-to-play. The publication also states it is likely discussions between Bungie and Sony surrounding its pricing occurred after Concord's abrupt shutdown. Despite Concord's short lifespan, it isn't too surprising Bungie is opting for a $40 price tag for Marathon. After all, the developer has experience successfully shipping live service games at a premium with both Destiny and Destiny 2. Additionally, unlike Concord, the extraction shooter has a beloved studio attached to it, so that may help. Bungie has been conducting Marathon playtests with internal teams, streamers, and content creators, the Game Post reports. Sources say feedback on the upcoming game is generally positive. One source said that the shooter feels worth the price tag. So there are other details that we need to go over here about Marathon. This was actually gathered by Okami13 on Twitter. So we know about the $40 price tag. Apparently, and this to me might be the most important thing, the game will be class-based, not a hero shooter. Now, this is a big deal to me because there were earlier reports that claimed that Marathon was changed to be a hero shooter. And that is, like, when I heard that, I thought, man, that is really a mistake. That is a bad idea. We do not need another hero shooter. Now, that was before Concord even launched when we heard about that. And I thought, if there's anything that's going to kill Marathon and really just stop it in its tracks, it's going to be that. So the fact that we're getting updated information that says Marathon is still class-based, this could save this game, man. Like, this could make a world of difference. So that is like the most important thing we're learning from this report. A $40 price tag, I think, makes a lot of sense. I think Sony has made it pretty clear by this point that when we release a live service game, it will be $40. It seems like Sony is not interested whatsoever in the free-to-play model, which is interesting to me because prior to them releasing any of their live service games, I thought that they were going to lean into a free-to-play model. But they're sticking with a premium pay-to-play model, which I'm not against as long as the content is there and it's worth it. I'm absolutely not against that. And I would assume for a game like Marathon, the content will be there. Apparently, right now, there are 2 maps that are currently playable. And the core gameplay structure is similar to Escape from Tarkov, but with what they're calling a Bungie twist. And they do not explain what this Bungie twist is. It's worth noting, it may sound bad up front that, oh man, only 2 playable maps, but keep in mind, this is a extraction shooter. An extraction shooter, the way it works is you're essentially dropped into a big open world map, a map that would be similar in size to like a battle royale map. So when we talk about there being 2 playable maps, that's actually quite significant because we're likely talking about 2 massively sized maps that are going to be very open. At least that's the assumption. It's also reassuring to hear, apparently, and I do agree, yes, anything can do better than Concord. I do agree with that. It's reassuring to hear that recent playtesting, and I don't want to put too much stock in this, but recent playtesting, apparently they're saying it's mostly positive, and some are saying it feels worth the $40 price tag. The thing that matters to me most here is the idea that they are bringing in like streamers or people who, you know, play a lot of different games or maybe play a lot of these types of games. That's reassuring to me because, like, I don't know, man. I don't know that I trust the whole idea that, oh yeah, playtesting is going well. I'm sure playtesting was going well for Concord as well. I'm sure the playtesting for Concord was, hey, this is fun, guys. This is good, which makes you question who the hell was playtesting this game. But I don't know that it's the greatest indicator that the game will be good, but I will say I have a lot more interest in what Marathon could end up being, because an extraction shooter sounds interesting. I'm not like thrilled about it. Like, I'm not over the moon like, yeah, this is it, I've been waiting for this. But an extraction shooter sounds interesting to me because there's not a whole lot of extraction shooters. Do I think it's going to be the next big thing? Probably not. No. Do I think it's going to be as big as Destiny? No. But really, all I want at this point out of a game like Marathon, after coming off of Helldivers 2 and after coming off of Concord, really all I want is just give me a good, well-playing, solid game. Doesn't have to be the best of the best, 10 out of 10, greatest live service ever made, but it also can't be a complete disaster, nightmare like we saw with Concord. Just give me something that can land in the middle where it's not the best, it's far from the worst, it's just good, and it's fun, and it's worth the $40. I can get on board with that. I can get behind that. Would I like it to be more than that? Of course. Would I like this game to be amazing and to be the game that catapults Bungie like back to the top? Yeah, I would. But I'm not expecting that. But I will say the new information we're hearing about Marathon gives me a little bit more faith, because it was sounding really bad there for a while. And so this definitely sounds like maybe, I don't know. It all comes down to expectations, though. And there's no denying that Sony's internal expectation of Bungie is probably very high, right? Like, hey, you're Bungie. We paid over $3.5 billion for you guys. The next game you make has got to be a moneymaker, right? It's got to be a big hit. But the reality for Sony right now is, guys, you just bought Firewalk and released the biggest live service disaster we've literally ever seen in history. Maybe just hope that this game can be okay. Right? Cobb Sanity, a member for 15 months, says it was reported that Marathon's first playtest was bad, so I think they did change it, but we will have to see. And that's a good call out, Cobb Sanity. You're right. When we got the first initial reporting on Marathon, it was stating that apparently the streamers and the people, the playtesters that they flew out, were not very happy with the game. Like, they were not impressed with it, and they just weren't having that much fun. And so that feedback like that can be incredibly valuable, where it's like, I'm sure it sucks, where it's like, they don't like our game. Did we just waste our time? Maybe. But it's good to get feedback like that, because it's important, where it's like, yeah, if your game is not good or it's not fun, like, somebody's got to tell you so you can fix it. You have time. And I hope that that's the case here. Again, I'm not assuming anything with Marathon. I'm not assuming it's going to fail and be a disaster. I'm not assuming it's going to be great. I'm not assuming anything. But it is reassuring to hear that they did get bad feedback with earlier playtesting. They've been working on it ever since. Now they have more playtesting conducted, and they've gotten more positive feedback. Capono, you're saying, I guess MBG has forgiven Bungie for factions. That's so cool. Well, because we got more information on it from Jason Schreier, and Jason Schreier seemed to confirm that Bungie didn't have control over factions. You know what it sounds like to me? The last thing that Jason Schreier said about that situation, he said that basically all that happened was Bungie gave Naughty Dog feedback that Naughty Dog found very valuable. And when I think about that, it almost sounds to me like Bungie basically warned them, like, guys, be careful, because like live service, once you're in, you're in. You can't really get out. And I think that that's an interesting way to view it, because when you think about what Naughty Dog ended up saying, what did Naughty Dog say about the canceled factions? They said, we want to keep making single player games. And the original report we heard from Jason Schreier, the original report claimed that Bungie questioned the long-term roadmap. Bungie questioned, how are you going to keep players engaged with The Last of Us Online for 3, 4, 5 years beyond. And I almost wonder if just the realization hit Naughty Dog where they're like, yeah, how are we going to do that? Now, granted, I think there was a viable solution here. I think that solution is Sony decides, Naughty Dog, you finish up the game, support it for maybe the first year, for the first couple seasons, and then we're gonna build up a different studio or give it to another studio, and they're gonna run The Last of Us Online, and then you guys are just gonna work on your single player games. That could have worked. But for whatever reason, I guess maybe just Sony thought it wasn't worth it. But yeah, I don't know that there was a misunderstanding. It sounds like it could have been, but it really did sound like for a while there, it seemed like Bungie killed The Last of Us Online. But as more information came out, it's like, no, they didn't kill it. They just gave feedback to Naughty Dog that Naughty Dog decided we should kill this. Still heartbreaking, man. It's still heartbreaking to think that something like The Last of Us multiplayer ultimately never saw the light of day, and we never got our hands on it. We never got to experience it. We never got to see a trailer for it. We never got to feel anything for The Last of Us Online except depression when we found out it was canceled. But we still got to see the tragedy of Concord. It still went through with release. And that to me I'll be honest, man, like, I'm not trying to make it sound dramatic or hyperbolic, but that's something I will never forget when it comes to PlayStation history, man. Like, hey, you remember that time The Last of Us multiplayer got canceled and then Concord came out after instead? Now, I'm not saying that The Last of Us multiplayer died so that Concord could attempt to live. That's not how that works. But it's just the idea that, like, what timeline are we in that this is how this played out? But either way, this is the timeline we're in. So, yeah, true. Then Astrobot, which is good. The next 15 years, people will be asking that question. Listen, I still think Naughty Dog owes us. I don't mean to sound entitled, but I don't even know that it's entitlement. I think it's Naughty Dog kept Last of Us multiplayer fans on the hook for like 4+ years. I think they owe us. You can't make a live service game. You don't want to make a live service game. I understand that. When The Last of Us Part 3 ships, you better have a multiplayer component. You better have it. They owe us. But yeah, we'll continue to monitor Marathon. I think the question people have at this point is, when are we going to see Marathon? Well, I'm surprised we haven't seen it yet. I want to say there's a decent chance we will see Marathon before the end of this year, but if we don't see it before the end of this year, we're guaranteed going to see it in the first half of 2025. So we'll keep an eye on it. I have a report here regarding Black Myth Wukong. I don't have a lot to say about this, but I just wanted to relay this info to you guys because I know that a lot of you are maybe still playing Black Myth Wukong or did beat it already, and I saw quite a few of you saying this is your personal game of the year. Being reported by WCCF Tech, Black Myth Wukong is easily the biggest success registered by a Chinese developer so far with a premium game. Earlier this month, we learned that the action RPG has sold 18 million units. However, an industry analyst based in China claimed that Game Science's debut title is now around the 20 million units milestone. In the same tweet, he also revealed to have heard from certain sources that the first Black Myth Wukong DLC will be released in early 2025, around the new Chinese year festivity, so between the end of January and early February. So I just wanted to relay this to you guys and let you know that if you enjoyed Black Myth Wukong, or if you're still enjoying it, they are working on DLC, and the current rumor is that it's going to be out early next year. So not too long of a wait. Not too long of a wait. And we have Steranko with a $5 super chat. He says, hey, MBG, just sending some support and good vibes. Love the channel. Keep it up. Well, thank you so much for that, Steranko. It's very kind of you, bud. I appreciate you just dropping a super chat just to show the support. Always appreciate the kindness of the and generosity of the community. You guys are awesome. You know, I could see them doing that, by the way. Yeah, I could see by the time this DLC is ready to launch in early 2025, they could re-release Black Myth Wukong physically. I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. A game that sells 20 million units, you could definitely make the argument they don't need a physical copy because people are buying it either way. But I would also make the argument you're just going to help it out. Like, you're going to give it even more sales potential. The game already has immense sales potential without a physical copy, but you could do like a premium package. Kind of like what Alan Wake is doing. Release the game physically, package in the DLC, charge a premium for it, of course. But I think that could work. I think a lot of people would double dip, you know? I agree, Gavin. You're saying 20 million sold in 2 months. Insane. It's difficult to believe. I'll be honest with you. Considering this is this team's first AAA game, it is difficult to believe, like genuinely, that they sold 20 million units. That is, that's mind-blowing. Good for them, though, man. Good for them. Chris Brown, you're saying it would not sell another 10 million if it went physical. Did somebody say that in the chat? No, it definitely wouldn't sell another 10 million, but I think it could give it a... Honestly, I could see another solid million. Maybe even 2. I could see that. And OK drops a $2 super chat saying, Marathon is make or break for PlayStation. Few understand this. I think when it comes to the live service side of things, you could be right, OK? Because Bungie is by far and away the biggest investment that Sony made into the live service field, right? It's one thing if a studio like Firewalk and a game like Concord fails. It's another thing when Bungie, who you paid $3.6 billion for, fails. So I think Sony is not willing to give up yet because, I mean, think about it. Like, if you paid $3.6 billion for a studio, you want to at least put the game out and, like, come on, it's got to do something. Like, you know, insert meme of the stick drawing, you know, the poking the stick at the bush or whatever. Like, come on, do something. You have to imagine they're expecting Marathon to do something. But when it comes to it being make or break, here's what I think. I think there are 3 outcomes for Marathon. Outcome number 1, it just completely flops aggressively. Not as bad as Concord, but it just flops. And it makes Sony realize that we don't know what we're doing at all. We completely screwed up. And we can't even rely on Bungie in the live service space. And if Marathon flops, I think Sony, I don't think they completely walk away from the live service space, but I think at the very least, they wrap it all up and go back to the drawing board, and we don't hear about live service plans for quite some time. The second possibility is the game does okay. It doesn't do anywhere near as good as Sony had hoped, but it's far from a failure. And so there's potential where Sony's like, okay, it's doing better than Concord. You know, like, it's not doing as good. Maybe it'll fall between Helldivers 2 and Concord, where it's like, it's not doing anywhere near what Helldivers 2 did, but it's also not doing anything anywhere near what Concord did. And so because of that, I think Sony would continue to support Marathon and still believe that there's something more they can do with Bungie and in the live service space. And then there's outcome number 3, which is Marathon shocks everybody, and it's an amazing game. It blows up. It becomes the next big thing. It does just as good as Helldivers 2, and Sony's like, we did it. And then they continue to push for live service even harder. So Yes, Marathon is full multi-platform as of right now anyway. I don't think they would change that. I don't know though, maybe they could. I do wonder if Sony could change that at this point. They seem to have taken control of Bungie, so it's possible. It's possible. MBG Marathon already looked better than Concord and Fair Games. Well, I mean, it's hard. I mean, in terms of just CG trailers, I agree. If we're comparing the CG trailers of Concord CG trailer, Fair Games CG trailer, Marathon CG trailer, I think looked the coolest. But you know, it's like we know Bungie, so I do feel like that just naturally leads to a greater like, okay, we have some idea of what to expect, some idea. But I don't know, man. We still have to reserve judgment until we see final gameplay, because the final gameplay could be extremely underwhelming, or it could be like, wow, that actually looks pretty fun. That's all I want, man. I just want Sony's live service games to look appealing and look fun. You know, that's all. And I feel like I'm not asking them to be the next Helldivers 2. I just want them to be fun. That's all. But guys, I have two bonus topics that I want to talk about with you guys before we wrap this up. Again, we're going to kind of keep this one shorter today. But I want to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2. I have a report here from WCCF Tech. The Nintendo Switch 2 console has entered full production, and the official name that has been used so far for the system may end up being the official one that they go with, according to rumors circulating online. As reported on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit, a Famiboard user called Forward or FWDBWD. I don't know what that's supposed to be saying, but they shared new information discovered on a Chinese forum from a supposed line worker regarding the console. The Chinese user revealed that the system has begun production with a quota of 1,000 units per day. The system is slightly larger than its predecessor, has a smaller bezel, and will come with a black and white Joy-Con controller, or black and white Joy-Con controllers. Additionally, the system shows a number 2 logo on the side, suggesting that Nintendo Switch 2 will indeed be the official name of the system. More information on the new Nintendo console may have come from a new report by the Taiwan Economic Daily. The report reveals that the new system will be larger than its predecessor, featuring better battery life, some AI features, likely NVIDIA DLSS support, and a dual screen design. The console's price is estimated to be $400, which is an increase over the launch price of the original Switch, but still a reasonable increase compared to the PS5 Pro price. As for the console's reveal, it is reported that it will, or it has been moved in response to the PS5 Pro announcement, but it will still come within the end of the calendar year. So, what are you guys thinking about these Switch rumors? So, I just want to say first thing I want to say, Nintendo, I really do hope that this is true, that you decided to call the Switch 2 the Switch 2, because you can't go wrong. You simply cannot go wrong by calling it the Switch 2. Just Switch 2. Switch number 2. You're talking about the same company that went from the Wii to the Wii U, and literally the naming of that console, I'm not saying that's what killed it, but man, it really contributed to its death and its failure. And I just feel like the safest way to go is just, here's the Switch. Here's the Switch 2. You know, everybody gets it. The Switch 64. The Super Switch. The Super Switch, yeah, that would have been a good second choice, I think. But I don't know. Apparently, according to this line worker in China, they're saying that they're manufacturing these things and it has a 2 actually like on the console. So, Shems, you're saying if it's back compat, I'm getting it. And you agree that Switch 2 is simple and won't confuse customers. Switch Pro. The Switch Pro, I think, you know, it would confuse customers. Certainly, it definitely would. This is MBG believes that they're just going to put 2 eyes. It's going to be Switch 2 eyes, and I'm like, it's a good thing you're not in charge of naming the next gen Switch. Already rumors of a Breath of the Wild version for Switch 2 and a new Mario Kart. It's going to sell tons. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Switch 2 is going to fly off the shelves. I know, right, B. Flesher? That's what I'm saying. But I thought that this report was interesting because, I mean, I have kind of been waiting to hear from Nintendo, like, when they're going to reveal the Switch 2. But the SWI, there we go. Shems, they should hire you, bro. Switch Genesis. Super Switch 2. Switch 8K. Hold on, I want to... So I'm just looking up synonyms for the word Switch. We have a handle, lever. There we go. Just call it lever. Introducing lever. Swap. We're here to introduce the next generation of Nintendo console, introducing Swap. The Nintendo Swap. It just makes you it makes you think of swamp though, doesn't it? Like when I read the Nintendo Swap, I just think swamp. The Nintendo Swamp. Slop Switch. Is there a rhyme or a reason to that? Another one is just rearrange. We're just going to call our console rearrange. Turnabout. Wow, how about that? Nintendo could really throw us for a loop and just call their next console Turnabout. The Super Turnabout. Trade. There we go. How about that? The Nintendo Trade. Sidetrack. Substitute. This is so stupid. Super Switch Turbo X. Super Switch Turbo. William, you're saying you really want them to call it Super Nintendo Switch 2? The Switch Cube. There you go. And it's not shaped as a cube. That would be, dude, that would be the best. Introducing the Switch Cube, it's just another handheld. Why? What's up with the cube? I don't know. Just sounds cool. Just call it the N. I'm going to say just calling it the N, probably not the best name to go with. Probably not the best idea. Switch Cube 64 Super. All right, we're just getting... I really thought me looking up synonyms for the word Switch would have ended this, but you guys are still going. They should just call it the PlayStation 6. Yeah. Yeah, they should. Although I'm pretty sure Sony trademarked that. The Switch. Yo, did you get that new Switch? The Play Switch. Now that would be funny. The Play Switch. Eric from 850 says, why not MBG? What's wrong with the N? No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying, some people are gonna, they're gonna go in different directions with that. That's all I'm saying. The WD-40 Switch Edition. All right, Gaming Survivor officially ended it. WD-40 Switch Edition. It's going to be blue and yellow. And that's that. Anyway, it's getting ridiculous. The point is, we should be hearing from Nintendo soon. I do find it interesting that apparently Nintendo pushed back their official Switch 2 reveal, though. Yeah, you can oil up the Joy-Cons. There you go. They pushed back their Switch 2 reveal because of the PS5 Pro. I wonder why. Maybe they just didn't want anything. I mean, I guess it makes sense. They don't want anything to take away from it. Eric from 850, I see what you're doing, bro. You're trying to get me in trouble. The Nintendo Swatch. Well, before I move on to the final bonus topic here, I do want to ask you guys, who's excited for the Switch 2? Who's excited for it? I mean, I can't say I'm excited for it. I can say I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I'm fascinated. I'm curious. Jonathan says he's pre-ordering it the second it's available. Pretty sure the Switch 2 will outsell the Pro. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time. Mrs. MBG is excited for the Switch 2. That's for sure. I do know that. Mrs. MBG is, she's much more of a Nintendo fan than I am. Eric from 850, you're saying I'll super chat for trying to bait you. Matt says, I'm getting it. Not sure at launch. Depends on the titles. I love my Switch, but I only usually play classic games on it. It's going to be, I think, kind of fun to see just the industry's reaction when the Switch 2 is officially revealed. It's going to be a big deal. Cypherpunk, you're saying you're skipping the Pro for the Switch 2? Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the Switch 2 is apparently it's going to be $400, and I think the Switch 2 is going to sell just as well as the original Switch, even at $400. Thank you, Zero Connection. You're saying congrats on the Astrobot Platinum. I appreciate that. I think it's time to see the next 3D Mario likely coming out alongside the Switch 2. What do you think the first 3 PS4 games released on the Switch 2? That's a good question. I mean, I don't know that I don't want to say that definitively. I feel like that's maybe a bridge too far right now. You know? The idea that Sony's prepping PS4 games. But that, I mean, they do have a game releasing on Switch. If Sony were to bring a couple of their PS4 games over to Switch, Horizon Zero Dawn. 100%. Like, I think that is by far the most likely scenario. I don't know if Forbidden West could. I mean, Forbidden West runs on PS4, but the DLC doesn't. So, at the very least, Zero Dawn. I mean, I think about something like God of War, but I don't know. I don't know that God of War would go over. That'll be a really interesting turn of events if Sony is actually viewing the Switch 2 as an opportunity to port some of their games over. Oh, damn. Hold on. We have some breaking news. Not really relevant to, well, maybe relevant to some of you here, but Mrs. MBG just made me aware. The Sims 5 is not coming as EA sets multiplayer expansions to current game creator kits to sell user-generated content. Oh, no. So The Sims 5 really did get canceled. Mrs. MBG is very depressed right now because of this. Uh-oh. No way. Okay. Okay. Well, guys, I only have one more topic. I don't want this stream to go to the 2 hour mark. I actually wanted to end it. I meant to end the stream like probably like 10 or 15 minutes ago. I wanted to keep it shorter today, but I want to read one last topic to you, and I lost it. Hold on. No, here we go. So we talked a little bit earlier about Vince Zampella, and he revealed what the next Battlefield game is going to be, and we've talked about Battlefield on the channel a couple of times. And here are the details that he revealed. Battlefield will return to a modern setting. This is what Vince Zampella confirmed. He says they're going to get back to the core of Battlefield and cites Battlefield 3 and 4 as the peak of the series. They're going to return to 64-player maps. They're going back to classes. Specialists are out. We have to have the core. The core Battlefield players know what they want. The game entered full production earlier this year and plans to have a community program sometime in 2025. So for any Battlefield fans here, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? I mean, this sounds somewhat promising. I'm not going to lie. It sounds promising, but I've completely fallen off of Battlefield to a point where it's like, I don't know, man. I got to see it to believe it. Because I loved Battlefield 3 and I loved Battlefield 4. I liked Battlefield 1 as well. I loved Bad Company 2. But man, they really, I think, the last couple of entries just really missed the mark. But I like what he's saying. Like, I feel like what he's saying is like, yeah, this could work. Like, go back to the roots, go back to the core, go back to the peak of what Battlefield was. It's not Bad Company 3, but I'm willing to give it a chance. But it sounds like it's far away. The fact that it just entered full production this year, I mean, it sounds like it's going to be like an end of generation title. But I'll give them a chance, man. I'll give them a chance. If they can deliver that, bring me back to Battlefield. Hardline was dope. Battlefield Hardline was actually better than people gave it credit for, I will admit. I did play that and I was like, it was a fun game. It wasn't as Battlefield as I think people wanted it to be, but for what it was enjoyable. Wondering if it'll be like a cross-gen game. It could be. I mean, if it's going to be a full-blown AAA title, it could be a cross-gen title. Or yeah, if it's going to be a full-blown like AAA Battlefield, it could be a game that releases around when the PlayStation 6 comes out. Could be cross-gen. Yeah. I mean, it's very true. EA, I don't know. I don't hate EA as much as a lot of people do, but they've definitely made some mistakes. Certainly. All right, guys. This is where I'm going to have to wrap the stream up, though. I got to end this one a little bit earlier today, which is a good thing. It kind of works out because, well, I mean, to be honest, there wasn't any like major topics today. But I'm going to end this one a little bit earlier. So, before I do that, though, Eric from 850, he stayed true to his word. He dropped a $10 super chat and he says, NBG, Nintendo Bound Gamer. Nintendo Bound Gamer. That's where we're going. That's where we're headed. But Eric, thank you for the super chat, dude. I do appreciate that. And yeah, that's going to do it for today's stream, guys. I do have a video that's going to be going out later as well. So look forward to that. I just want to thank everybody for your continued support. All my channel members, thank you guys for what you do. Anybody who dropped any super chats, thank you so much. I also just want to make sure to thank Devil Shooter. He does the timestamps for all the streams. If you guys see him in the comments, show him some love, give him some thanks. I know he very much appreciates that. He does great work for the community here. So Devil Shooter, thank you so much for what you do. And before we head out, Shadowlink drops a single membership gift. Well, a single membership buys you another minute, bro. Shadowlink, thank you for that. I will give it another minute just in case. I don't know. It happens on rare occasions. Sometimes we have literally end of stream member trains. If anybody else wants to drop any memberships before we go, I cannot do a members lounge today, GTV. I apologize for that. I've been slacking big time on the members lounges, but I'm getting into a better routine with the streams and the videos, and so my hope is to get back to a more regular schedule with the members lounges. We should be able to do that. Things have been very hectic lately. Like that's why I had to end the stream early. Like I got a couple things to get done. And Omen86 drops a 5-bomb. I had a feeling. I'm like, Shadowlink out here dropping a single membership gift, and then Omen drops another 5. So just like that, 6 memberships gifted. Omen that buys you 5 minutes. I don't know if it's going to buy you a full 5 minutes because I'm on a time crunch, but it definitely buys a little bit more time. This is how the streams are going to work now. 1 membership equals a minute. 5 memberships equals 10 minutes. So on and so forth. Hold on one sec. I appreciate that, Shadowlink. You're saying I saw we didn't have many, so I wanted to add one. Yeah, any support that you guys show, it means a lot. I do appreciate it. I do apologize for the stream having to be a little bit shorter, but it happens sometimes, you know. It's I think good though. Any news on that rumored stated play? As of right now, no. I kind of mentioned this in one of my previous streams, but somebody reached out to me and my interpretation of what they were trying to tell me. I mean, we'll see if I'm interpreting what they were telling me correctly. They seem to be indicating that the state of play is going to be announced on Saturday. Like, it's not happening on Saturday, but that's when Sony will make the announcement, which is a little strange to me because I'm like, I don't know that they would make a state of play announcement on a Saturday, but Sony doesn't they just don't care anymore, dude. Like, they'll do what they want. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Eric, you're saying I tried to drop a few memberships, but it was just loading, so I went with a super chat instead. Well, I appreciate it either way, Eric. And Omen86 with a super chat says, I missed the stream, dropped by just in time. I'm hyped for the Pro. Finally an excuse to upgrade my TV. Screw the haters. I'll be the one laughing. I appreciate the energy, Omen86, more than ever, truly, because, man, you know, I'm willing to hear people's criticisms of the PS5 Pro. I'm willing to hear what people have to say. And I think that there are some valid criticisms of all these different things, you know, not just the Pro. I think that every product has its cons, and I think that there are valid criticisms. But one thing that has become abundantly clear to me over the last, I would say, 48 to 72 hours specifically is, dude, there are so many people that are just trying to completely muddy the water and hate for the sake of hate. And it's just gotten to an overwhelming point where it's like, you know what? Yeah, screw the haters, man. I'm excited for the Pro. I'm looking forward to the Pro. Doesn't mean that it couldn't have its own. It doesn't mean it couldn't have some flaws. We'll see. But you know, I come across these people where they've made it so it's like, no, bro, you got like it's you either gotta love or hate Sony. It's like, no, I'm good. But Omen, when you get that new TV, bro, you have to let us know what kind of TV you get. I mean, I would say that's probably the best time to get a new TV. Yeah. If you're gonna go if you're gonna get the Pro, may as well go all out, you know? Hold on, Leia. Get that mold TV. All right, let me see where we're at. Okay. All right, yeah. So, guys, that is going to wrap today's stream up. Thank you for the support towards the end of the stream. Definitely appreciate it. Um, be on the lookout tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure if we will have a stream ready to go tomorrow, but just be on the lookout. But yeah, I do have a video going out later today. So, like I said, go check that out. Sony dropping new in-zone monitors. Was that just announced? Or are you saying you would like them to do that? Let me check real quick here. I didn't hear anything about new monitors. I mean, yeah, I kind of forgot that Sony did that, right? Like they have that line of in-zone monitors. Oh, they are. Wow. Okay. Ooh, interesting. Sony will unveil new in-zone monitors September 25th. Oh shit. Yo, you think Sony's going to go crazy and be like, "Yo, here's this 40-inch 8K monitor," some crazy stuff like that? Well, you know what? I'll cover that when it comes out. I'll let you guys know what's going on, but I thought you were just saying you were hoping for new in-zone monitors. Apparently, Sony is planning on revealing them. Yeah, it'll be the day after the State of Play as well. Yeah, that's a good point, William. Very interesting. Very interesting. I'll be paying attention to that because I honestly was curious to see if Sony was going to continue supporting the monitors, you know, or if it was just like a test run. Anoman 86 with another super chat says Sony TV, of course. Unlock the ultimate pony trophy. No, dude, I got some Sony TVs as well. Dude, listen, you can call us ponies or fanboys all you want. Sony makes great TVs, bro. They do. Like if you're going for their high-end TVs, excuse me, they make great TVs. Like they're expensive. You pay for them. But I mean, they know what they're doing in that area. And Shadow Gamer 24 comes in and drops another 5-bomb on you guys. Another 5-bomb. See, this is why I said Omen 86 bought us 10 minutes. He kind of did. And Shadow Gamer dropped another 5-bomb. Did Shadow Gamer just buy another 10 minutes? We are now at 11 members on the day. Shadow Gamer, thank you so much for that, bro. That's what's so funny about these streams sometimes, man, is you never know when the member trains are going to go off. It could happen at the beginning. It could happen all throughout, or it could just happen at the very end. But I do appreciate that, bro. Are we going to do it? I don't know. Do we have time to do it? Shit. I don't know. I'm cutting it close. Are we going to hit the 25 mark before we end the stream today? We could try. Boss is in here somewhere. We hit that 25, we could feed the beast. Let me update this though and just show you where we're at. But yeah, Sony makes some great, LG makes great TVs as well. I agree with that. But one thing that's for sure is like if you're buying a high-end TV, I mean, you're going to pay for it. You know, you usually get what you pay for. In my experience, Eric says we're bribing this man. Shems, you're saying the state of play is not confirmed. Be patient, y'all. Well, wait, hold on. William, bro, why'd you just hide Gaming Survivor? Okay, I guess I was. I'm like, no, yo, that's not WD-40 Gaming Survivor. We need him here. He's got to survive. Survive. Gaming Survivor probably was just like, oh my God, what just happened? William in here causing chaos. The LG, you're saying LG C2 user here, incredible TV, best I've used. The drum man wants reps, bro. If we hit 50 members, I'll do some reps. I'll tell you that. But we're not at 50 members. We're at 11 members. It glitched. Can you undo it? It says here. It says Gaming Survivor was hidden, but then it says Gaming Survivor was unhidden. So I don't know. I think he's Gaming Survivor. Are you with us? Oh, he's good. Yeah, he's there. He's good. Yeah, that was weird. It's like back to back. YouTube's weird that way sometimes. I don't fully understand it. YouTube glitches out from time to time. You went into the astral realm, and I've returned now with new wisdom. Oh shit. He got yeeted to the astral realm. But guys, all right, I think this is it. This officially does it. As I'm saying my third outro, you know somebody's going to drop more membership gifts, and I'm going to be like, all right, well, I got to extend the stream now. But I think this wraps it up. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And literally, as I say that, Omen drops another super chat. Omen says, I just love looking at that silver Sony logo. Well, calm down now, Omen. Making me feel a little uncomfortable. Yeah, I imagine Omen 86, he's got his like 65-inch top of the line Sony TV up against the wall. He's got his PlayStation, he's got his PS5 Pro there, either next to it or underneath it. And he's going to have a picture of Jim Ryan to the right, picture of Mark Cerny to the left. He's going to have the whole thing. All right. Guys, that wraps up today's stream. I got to go. Like I said, I have a video going out. Be sure to check that out. Devil Shooter. I gave you your shout out already, Devil Shooter. Thank you for what you do with the timestamps. Just, extended the stream by like 10 minutes or so. So hopefully that doesn't mess anything up. But guys, I will, like I said, I'll probably be back tomorrow with another stream. There is a chance there might not be a stream though. So just be on the lookout. Just come check the channel at around 11 or 12, 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. Eastern. And we'll see what we're doing there. But, oh, wow. Prince G, bro. Okay. Yeah, I don't like that that's what people are going to call it. But, yeah, apologies to anybody who tuned in late. We've been streaming for about just a little over 2 hours. But I think we went through some topics here. So I think it's worth, like, going back and watching. It's all pretty cohesive. Yesterday's stream was, like, kind of incoherent. Today's was kind of the opposite. So it should be good. But all right, guys, that does it. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I will hopefully catch you guys tomorrow. If not tomorrow, I will catch you again on Thursday. All right. So that does it. Take care of yourselves. And yeah, till next time, guys. That's weird. I said take care of yourselves, and I was gonna say until next time, take care. So I'll just say bye. See ya.